bring in staff writer for The Atlantic and MS Now political contributor Mark Leibovich. Also with us, the founder of the media industry newsletter Status, Oliver Darcy. So, Oliver, CBS is responding to Colbert's claims that the network lawyers barred them from airing that interview. They say, quote, the show was provided legal guidance that the broadcast could trigger the FCC equal time rule for two other candidates and presented options for how the equal time for other candidates could be fulfilled. They added the show was provided options on how they could air the interview, and they, of course, chose to put it on YouTube. But I know that you're inside of this, so what are you hearing about this war of words that is playing out extremely publicly?
Well, it's really remarkable, Ali, that a network would come out and basically say their most recognizable host lied to their audience on their own air about what happened here. Colbert came out and said, literally in no uncertain terms, that CBS said he couldn't have Tallarico on his air. And CBS comes out a few hours later and says, we didn't actually say that. And then Colbert last night goes on television and calls their statement crap, says he didn't actually even know about it, and that he was effectively offended by the fact that no one even gave him a heads up they were going to put out the statement disputing his version of events. And he treated it like crap, putting it in like a doggy poop, bag and dumping it in the trash. I mean, this is a remarkable war of words between a network and their late night host. And it comes down to who do you believe? Do you believe the network that's controlled by David Ellison, which is obviously trying to curry favor with the Trump administration and would have some reason to not be on Brendan Carr, the FCC chairman's bad side? Or do you believe Stephen Colbert, who, had his show canceled and has really nothing to lose at this point by going on air and telling viewers how it is?
Yeah, and clearly showing that he is going to expose everything as it pertains to this topic and any future incident going forward. But I also think the thing that is fascinating, confusing about this, Mark, is this is CBS effectively making a decision about something that the FCC could enforce but never has when it comes to late night shows having on political figures, regardless of party.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Colbert is saying. The whole
sorry,
idea
Mark
here
first,
too,
then Oliver, if you don't mind.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Oliver. No, it's just, basically, in fairness to CBS, this has been an FCC that has done unprecedented things. They have pushed lines much farther. They have done things that other FCCs and other administrations have not even come close to doing. So, these are well-founded lawyerly concerns. I think, in some ways, the sort of he said, she said, between the two parties here is irrelevant to, politically speaking, it's great for James Tallarico for reasons that we can certainly discuss. But ultimately, Stephen, this is the dangerous situation you're in when you have essentially a very high profile, but also lame duck host who's going to be out in a few months.
And Mark, I'm going to come back to you on the politics because this really does seem like a gift from on high for Tallarico. First day of early voting in Texas, and he's able to say, I've raised $2.5 million. You've got people online saying they're watching the interview because this is what the government doesn't want them to see. So we'll come back to that in just one moment. But Oliver, to button up this point of what the FCC would or wouldn't enforce when it comes to this equal time amendment, there's grounds for CBS, if this became a fight, and again, if, they would probably win it, right? Why not just take it to the administration? Talk about the considerations happening behind the scenes at CBS, because, of course, nothing happens in a vacuum.
Of course, they would have a very good chance of winning this. I would be surprised if CBS would lose this case. The FCC hasn't enforced this equal time rule against a late night show, to my knowledge, ever. And so the thing is, though, that Brendan Carr at the FCC, who is a Trump stooge, knows that just putting the idea out there is going to stifle free speech. Just putting networks on notice that, hey, we might enforce this is going to have a chilling effect on speech at networks, which do not want to be on Donald Trump's bad side. And you have to put this in the greater context. CBS is owned by David Ellison. David Ellison desperately right now needs to be on Donald Trump's good side because he's trying to get a deal to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns CNN and another number of other properties, through. And their big card is that Trump likes us. And so he does not want Trump's FCC to be going after them in any real way. They want to be totally in compliance with Brendan Carr and what he's doing over there. So they're what Colbert is saying is preemptively capitulating and saying, even though this isn't something that's being enforced, we're just not going to even attempt to get in the FCC's way. And that's what's really disturbing. And I think if you talk to a lot of people who are experts on authoritarianism, is they will always say the thing to watch out for is just preemptive capitulation by major corporations, by people who just don't want to deal with the trouble. And I think that's what you're seeing here.
Super, super important point, especially when you consider this larger landscape where the Trump administration has tried to bring legal entities to heel, cultural institutions to heel, late night television to heel. Jimmy Kimmel, of course, was the first iteration of this in a very public way with Brendan Carr. So I think all of that is essential context here. But then, of course, Mark, to double back to the politics of it, Tallarico raising millions in the 24 hours after this news broke. I mean, this is a gift. Again, Texas started early voting yesterday, and he's in a tight primary.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a gift. I mean, both from a fundraising perspective, a lot more people presumably watched this interview than they would have if it were, if this didn't happen. There was also a lot of sort of other media that sort of sprung from it. It's been a topic of conversation and probably will for the next few days. So, yes, it's a gift. And if you sort of buy the notion that Republicans probably would prefer to run against Jasmine Crockett than James Tallarico, which is what a lot of Republicans certainly have said to me, this is, I guess, kind of a backfiring of that, whether it's tactical or not. But obviously, this has played out to the benefit of James Tallarico.